Rock and Metal, Live Headbangers presents in these sessions To Reason. Enjoy!
Hi, good evening. It's a great pleasure to be on this special Live Headbangers session, which is dressed up because we have the founding leader and guitarist of the English band Reason. Reason, one of the best bands in the UK, and of which I have been a fan for more than a decade, enjoying great compositions and very great music, a metal with a fresh and powerful voice, the voices of Paul Mays, which is accompanied by powerful guitars, and guitars are by Chris Gyngell. Welcome, Chris, founder, leader, and guitarist.
Hi, Carlos. Nice to finally speak to you. Thank you very much for all your support for about 10 years now, since you first wrote a review of our first album and sent it over to me. And we've been in contact ever since. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thanks for asking us to answer these questions for you. And I'll go on to do the best I can.
Yeah, Chris, right. That review of your first album, The Darkest Star, which I received autographed and is one of my favorites today. Here is, let me show you. This is the CD. The CD. Here is the autograph. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for sending me this, and I appreciate your time. And of course, I appreciate your music. Thank you so much. Let's begin this short interview. How did the idea of creating Reason come about?
Well, Reason vocalist Paul Mason and I knew each other when we were kids. We actually lived in the same street, 2 doors away from each other. And when we were in our teens, we got into a band, and we weren't that great, but years and years later, and long after the band had gone, Paul got back in touch with me, wondering what I was doing, and we got talking for a while. And after some trials with a few musicians, and we started playing some rock covers and things like that, we talked about forming a band, and that's how the idea for Reason came about. It was really picking up from some of my past experience. I'd sort of managed to be in a couple of recording bands and done reasonably well, and Paul had been singing in some stage musicals and things like that, and with a few bands, and we had sort of like a combination that was really working quite well. So we just discussed, recording some new songs, writing some material, and just got started. And that's really the spontaneous way it began. Everything went so well in the beginning that it encouraged us to carry on, and things went further and further, and the rest is, as you know. So.
Yeah. It's very so spontaneous. Reason started out like a lot of bands, as usual, and the love for music and your friendship with Paul. And look, everything has flowed so that the band is already part of the great history of heavy metal in the whole world. Thank you, Chris. Did you study music in any institution, or did you learn empirically?
None of us studied music. None of us can actually write or read music either. I mean, we just, learned our trades actually playing live, and working in rooms with musicians and trading ideas and things like that. So all of the technique is really developed during songwriting process and rehearsal and in a band environment, rather than actually studying. I did a brief period of jazz guitar lessons, believe it or not, just before we started forming Reason. And that opened my mind up a little bit. But I was already a pretty good player at that point, just from years of experience. So I can't really count that as training. It was more of a kind of expansive experience, really. But no, we're not trained.
Well, it seems that you have some experience right now. And just like many other great musicians, you're learning empirically, and of course, by trying and trying and trying. And the rehearsals are so important for any band. Playing heavy metal with the soul and with the heart. And look, Reason is the great result. Uh, Tell me, Chris, who were the musical influences to form the band Reason?
The main musical influences for the band are really the classic metal bands of probably the 70s, and then some of the progressive metal bands that came out of that,
Okay.
and a lot of the new wave of British heavy metal bands of around 1980, and then a few years after that. Maybe a little bit from some American commercial melodic rock bands as well from that period. But fundamentally, most of the musical influences you could say were from the late 70s, early 80s. For me, anyway, I think Rainbow, Rush, Dio, Dio era Black Sabbath as well.
Of course.
And also a lot of, like I said, the new wave of British heavy metal bands for the really compact, powerful melodic songs that came out of that period. I think a lot of that kind of feel has rubbed off into the songs that I've written for the band. Just because that's what really excited me. I can remember being so excited by that music. I later got into more progressive music as well, and that has some kind of an influence on what we did, although it was never intentional. We got called progressive, but I think that's mainly because we had keys in the band more than being a progressive music band. Certainly in the early days, the music got more progressive as we went along. But classic metal, melodic metal, and progressive metal from the late 70s and early 80s is mainly what influenced our sound.
Well, great influences, very great influences, and Dio in the Black Sabbath season, Dio, Ronnie James Dio, the inventor of the metal horns, great bands, and all that bands are from the top notch. Rush, Rainbow, Sabbath mostly, and it's enjoyed in recent song. Well, let's go to the music section in this program and listen to a song from the first album, The Darkest Star, and enjoy it and play it loud, please.
Misty dawn in another time, a bolt of light crashes through the heavy sky. Cast to earth unwanted sun, to walk with men and spread your hurt to everyone. Everyone. Be a struck into every heart. A disease, humankind is torn apart. Bringing pain on a deadly tide. Darkest star, truth and hope was swept aside. Planets alive, serpents entwined. Now is the time. Evil angel, spread your wings. Light the darkness, sorrow brings. Leave our world before you call us under. Fallen angel to the sky. Heaven's exile now arise. You won't be the one to call us under. You will pay for a tragedy. Poison child, you can change our destiny. We will rise to reverse the score. To avenge, cast you out forevermore. Planets alive, serpents entwined. Now is the time. Evil angel, spread your wings. Light the darkness, sorrow brings. Leave our world before you call us under. Fallen angel to the sky. Heaven's exile now arise. You won't be the one to call us under. Planets alive, serpents entwined. Now is the time. Evil angel, spread your wings. Light the darkness, sorrow brings. Leave our world before you call us under. Fallen angel to the sky. Heaven's exile now arise. You won't be the one to call us under. Evil angel, spread your wings. Light the darkness, sorrow brings. Leave our world before you call us under. Fallen angel to the sky. Heaven's exile now arise. You won't be the one to call us under.
Evil angel, spread your wings. I love this song, Chris. Thank you. I love a very, very great song. Chris, tell me who formed the first lineup?
Again, it was vocalist Paul Mace and myself who formed the first lineup of the band, and we were quite lucky, really, with the musicians we got. We came quite a long way over about 2 years. I think we started the band in 2009, and during 2011 we'd amassed quite a lot of material. We were looking at the possibility of recording an album. We played our material to quite a lot of people, and already had the track Rise remixed, produced by Beau Hill, who of course was responsible for Rat, Winger, a couple of Alice Cooper albums, I think Europe. So there's a lot of encouraging signs. We came all the way up to that point with the same lineup. Unfortunately, we lost our keyboard player and drummer in the year leading up to doing the debut album. We replaced those guys and pushed our way on then.
Yeah, I imagine that, Chris. And now, Reason is a duo. It's so difficult to maintain a band these days and have consistency and cohesion among all the musicians. But you and Paul have kept Reason alive. Who is the main composer of the band, Chris?
As you might know, I tend to be the person who starts all the ideas in Reason for each song. I write an awful lot just in the quiet on my own, really. But we do grow ideas in rehearsal rooms, and certainly have done in the past. And it's a case really of waiting for inspirations. There's such a wide range of influences that have gone into the sound we had. There's no real formula, and it's certainly not a situation where we jam to achieve a result. So yeah, I mean, fundamentally I tend to always start the writing process.
Yeah, and just let me tell you that you have been composing great lyrics, Chris. And I admire your way of thinking because it is reflected in the same lyrics in your music. And as Gary Moore said once, the lyrics often reflect the life experience of the composers. And really, I love your lyrics. I love your music. What is the theme in general of the songs? What are you talking about?
Most of the songs are written about what I call conditions of the heart and mind. We tend to be kind of on the progressive kind of trend in terms of lyrics, or that's what I call it. Looking more from a point of view of bands like Pink Floyd or Queensryche or Dream Theater or something like that. Not an awful lot of direct aggressive stuff, and not an awful lot of love orientated songs either. Mainly more kind of thought-provoking things, or ideas put across in a kind of artistic turn of phrase, I would say. But yeah, more in and maybe a bit of the fantasy realm, the fantasy metal that Rainbow or Dio tended to do. So yeah, that would be something I would say about the theme in general of our songs.
Yeah, epic lyrics about the fantasy lyrics and all that kind of stuff. And sure, the heart and the mind are big enough to inspire any kind of music. It's so true, Chris. It shows in the elegance and power in Reason's music. Let's go to the music section again and let's listen to another song from the first album, The Darkest Star. Enjoy it and play it very loud. Another wall.
To the light, we are gone. Second sight, only God and I what we feel. We try, but there's no way out. No fire burning on. Precious light, always searching for something real. We fly, but there's no way out from here. So we a lifeline into another world. Once in a lifetime, this is another world. On and on, never end. We are strong, we are fighting to still believe. Believe that there's some way out. Oh, run for the light. We've begun to learn that we can be free. To learn that there's some way out from here. So be a lifeline into another world. Caught in the headlights, onto the other world. Nearing the deadline, never have time to kill. Once in a lifetime, this is another world. We're given a plan of action. It means nothing to me. A parliamentary reaction. We all need to be free. So be a lifeline into another world. Caught in the headlights, onto the other world. Nearing the deadline, never have time to kill. Once in a lifetime, this is another world.
Great song, Chris. Another word from the album The Darkest Star. Thank you. Tell me, Chris, how many albums have you released?
We've released two albums, two full albums, that is.
Okay.
There's been a number of digital singles and EPs and things in between, but fundamentally, the first album, which was released 10 years ago, and then quite a long break to the next one, which was, I think, something like about 3.5 years later, I think. So two albums to date.
Yeah, and great albums, and you have an EP, a very great EP, Beyond the Dark Horizon 2. I have the first one in CD format, as you can see here. I love this CD, and the second one I have it in digital format, MP3. And Chris, tell me about your first album, The Darkest Star.
The first album, December 2011 was The Darkest Star, and I think probably still our best known piece of work up until now. Certainly what drew a lot of attention to the band, both with listeners and with the music press. At the time, I think we'd been working on stuff that was like kind of progressive, but there was an element of a stadium rock type feel to it, which perhaps didn't linger later on with the band so much, but it was all about really big tunes and choruses. We always had some fairly complex or distinct arrangements to the songs, but we always tried to keep a really strong melodic feel to them in the kind of new wave of British heavy metal style. I think all of us were probably, really influenced by music from that period because, in all honesty, that's the age we are. We're not so young. But it was a really, really strong time in the UK for rock music, the early 80s. And so many great bands came out of that. I think that had stuck with us, and we'd always tried to kind of reproduce that, along with, again, a strong kind of Dio, Rainbow influence, and a little bit of Rush, Pink Floyd, Dream Theater, maybe, but the overall feel of the album was very kind of uplifting. I think somebody described it in a review as miserable yet somehow uplifting, which I thought was strange. But yeah, no, we were very happy with it at the time, and it's still popular now. It sold a reasonable amount, even though we only had a very small production budget and publicity budget for it. So it's been pleasing, that.
Yeah, I understand a CD with low budget, with the sound of the classic, the new wave of British heavy metal, and Reason is the proof of this sound. A perfect album with all the songs, absolutely all the songs. In fact, that was what caught my attention and made me to fall in love with that CD, with that album. Thank you, Chris. And now, tell me about the second album, The Deception of Dreams.
The second album was called The Deception of Dreams and wasn't released till about 3.5 years after the first album. I think I mentioned earlier, before we did the first album, we changed our drummer and our keyboard player, and the guys that had come in were a lot more virtuoso, and so the sound of the band had started to change somewhat by the time we did the second album. There were a lot more sort of dual guitar and keyboard parts, and even some keyboard solos. The drum patterns had become a lot more intricate. It was definitely going in a more progressive direction, more along the lines of Dream Theater, rather than, say, Dio and Rainbow. And the songs, I think, were not quite as direct, not quite as melodic, and the whole instrumentation was slightly different, but definitely a more progressive album than the first one. Perhaps a little harder for a lot of people to get into, I think, looking at it now, but still a reasonably good success, and quite a lot of people seem to rate it higher than the first album. A lot of good songs on there as well. A lot of the songs from this album and from our original first album we've produced remix versions of since as well, which we have on our YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to go and listen to
for sure,
stuff that we did at that time but remixed now, if you search for Reason UK Archive on YouTube, you should find all that material there.
Yeah, of course. And please follow Reason in Facebook and in the YouTube channel. Let me send some greetings to my brothers in arms, my partners Alejandro, Enrique, and Diego, and special greetings and hugs to my cousin Hugo Saldivar, a very great fan of Reason. Great album, The Deception of Dreams, Chris. Well, let's go to listen another song, again from the Darkest Star, and this is Before the Dawn.
Reach for the poison that kills all your fears. Twisted emotions, the wealth of your years. In for the action, the thrill of it all. A deadly attraction. Mind racing faster, the journey begins. Flying the skies on oblivion's wings. Rush in the bloodstream, a fire in the soul. Seeds of a bad dream. Ready to face the night. Ready to lose the fight. Afraid to sleep, your fear runs deep. There'll be a nightmare before the dawn. You chose the light and said goodbye to the life that you knew before. Burning elation beginning to fade. No levitation, you're falling away. A chill in your veins, how anxiety crawls. A twist in the game now. Ready to face the night. Afraid to sleep, your fear runs deep. There'll be a nightmare before the dawn. You chose the light and said goodbye to the life that you knew before. Inside your mind, black visions rise. In the darkness, they grip your soul. They did to hide your pain inside. Ever lonely, facing the nightmare alone. Life in denial, you're losing your hold. Walls building higher, now you are enclosed. There's nothing left now, reality's end. You're racing to death now. Ready to face the night. Afraid to sleep, your fear runs deep. There'll be a nightmare before the dawn. You chose the light and said goodbye to the life that you knew before. Inside your mind, black visions rise. In the darkness, they grip your soul. They did to hide your pain inside. Ever lonely, facing the night alone. To hide your pain inside, ever lonely, facing the night alone.
Very, very great riffs, Chris. Amazing riffs, amazing riffs. Let's go to the next question. The next question, Chris. Tell me, what is the current lineup?
The band hasn't actually performed as a live band now for about 4 years, and of course with the COVID break, 2 years, that's really put things on hold now. And currently Reason really is a recording project now with just myself and Paul Mace, writing, recording, and producing our own material.
Well, so basically, we're talking about that today. Reason is a duo, it's a project with you and Paul Mace. And recently, you have composed and broadcast one more song, and hopefully, after this lockdown, everything flows better for you, for the band, for Paul, because we would like to see you live here in Mexico City. You have a lot of fans that follow you in this country. And what are the short-term plans for the band, Chris?
We're not really sure if there's any plan at the moment to put another live band together, but if there was any reasonable interest commercially in the band, then we might consider it. But at the moment, we're just looking at producing some new material, and we've begun doing that. It has a slightly different feel. We're very pleased with it, so we're going to see where that takes us, I think.
I hope that soon you will arm yourself with good musicians, and together with Paul, Reason will return to make more quality music. Tell me about the tours. Do you plan any tour soon, or any for in the future?
As I said, we're only recording as a duo at the moment, so no direct plans to do any tours. Touring in the UK anyway, historically, has been extremely difficult. I think we could be in any other country on the planet and it would be better than it is here.
Yeah, how come?
I know there's a great thriving scene in Middle America, Mexico, South America, mainland Europe, and Asia, but the UK is pretty poor for rock and metal bands, apart from the obvious festivals. But these are the real, the only target events that a band in our position could go for. We're not really sure whether we will try to do that. Again, if we had some commercial interest, perhaps there would be then the impetus to push forward and do that. But at the moment, nothing planned.
Sad to hear about the UK scene with all these bands. We will be looking forward to it in a few years, and hopefully uh, you will come to Mexico. I hope so. Let's go to listen another music, and this is a song from the second album, and it's called Revelation.
You must be dreaming. You'll never see the truth, the real meaning hidden out of you. Never, never live their lives. Stormy weather, keep your mind. Never, ever give any time. We'll see. Revelation, the fearless nation, generation as one. Voice of reason, the non-believers. Revelation will come. I must believe it. I believing. Lessons without proof. Never, never live their lives. Stormy weather, keep your mind. Never, ever give, and in time we'll see. Revelation of fabulous nation. Generation as one. Voice of reason, the non-believers. Revelation will come. Leading us schemes to exploit the extremes, leading us out in the cold. No black or white, no wrong or right, truth and nothing so. A voice of unity in a world destroyed by the extreme. The moderate must rise to set the day. Never, never live their lives. Stormy weather, keep your mind. Never, ever give, and we'll see. Revelation of fabulous nation. Generation as one. Voice of reason, the non-believers. Revelation will come. Voice of reason, the non-believers. Revelation will come.
Another great song, Chris, Revelation from the second album. Thank you, Chris. In the United Kingdom, metal was born with Black Sabbath, and in that country, there are already metal hair bands that successors bands, especially in these last 20, 22 years and 25 years. Do you consider Reason as part of these hairs as a successors?
Yeah, yeah. In Britain, everything started here with Black Sabbath. In fact, Black Sabbath came from Birmingham, uh, which is about 1 hour drive by car from where we are. This part of England has produced so many metal bands since Black Sabbath began it. I mean, Judas Priest were from Birmingham, Magnum, even ELO, Diamond Head, all from this part of the world. And there's obviously a lot of guys when we were kids around here playing this kind of music, and quite a big scene. So I don't think we really have a lot of Black Sabbath in our sound, although we all love Black Sabbath. And I think maybe they had a progressive element, almost a jazz element to their sound, which I think anybody that's played progressive metal at all will always appreciate as being a big influence. And we have a few riffs. There's a few riffs, particularly in the first album, Before the Dawn, the guitar riff there. Probably the biggest, heaviest riff in any of our songs. I think it's a kind of Black Sabbath type thing. So that's always in the back of your mind. You never get away from that sound. But we're not directly linked to that. Like I said, I think more perhaps Rainbow Dio in the classic metal terms. But yeah, Black Sabbath, big influence on everybody.
A very big influence for musicians and for the fans. I love Black Sabbath, and maybe not Black Sabbath, but progressive and other stuff. And of course, Reason. Of course, Reason is a successor of these great bands in the future. And well, we have reached to the end of this great special program. Thank you, many thanks to Chris, thanks to Paul Mays for the time. I appreciate, Chris, your accessibility for this interview. Thank you very much. And any comment you wish to add, Chris? And thank you very much.
Well, just to say thank you very much, Carlos, for letting me answer these questions and featuring the band on your show. And hopefully we'll speak again one day. And in the meantime, sure. I hope that a few people that want to come and listen to our music now check us out, see what we do, and look out for some more stuff from us in the future anyway. And thank you and goodbye.
Well, thank you, Reason. Follow the band on their fan page on Facebook and their channel on YouTube, please. And now let's go to listen the recent song just released a month ago, an extraordinary song, and we will surely have Reason for a long time. This is Silently, Endlessly. Enjoy it.
Sailed too long in stormy water. I stopped to catch my breath before I journey on. I dreamed and lost my way, lost sight of better days. They're all gone. Been drinking with the devil's daughter. It took a little time to get up from the floor. I can't go on that way. My angels flew away, and I'm there to protect me anymore. There's a place in my soul where the river runs. then pushed away too far down the street from where my heart belongs. There's a place in my soul where a river runs silently, endlessly. Going back to the place where the river runs to search for me, to search for me. There's a place in my soul where a river runs silently, endlessly. Going back to the place where the river runs to search for me, to search for me.
Thank you, everybody, and follow us at liveheadbangers.com. Thank you. Bye.